So, I don't know, one of the main reasons why I cut this on was because I feel like I have a lot that I say to myself, and that's fine and that's okay, but you're not really helping anyone else if you keep everything to yourself. If I keep everything in my head, then who am I helping? If anything, I'm hurting myself and others. I'm hurting myself by keeping this speech that I speak a lot to myself. And I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and I understand that, but the things that I say and, the conversations that I have with myself are so just, it's not your ordinary cooking and milk conversation, a lot of times I find myself not necessarily confused, but just in awe, like there is no answer. There is no answer for a question I might have, because the question I have I guess the best way to put it would be, the questions I ask myself would be like asking fire why it doesn't burn. Like it's not really a question that can technically be answered. And when I'm interested in these certain things, I don't know, man. You just you get to a certain age. Some people earlier than others. I'll be 29 this year, and I just found myself just so fascinated by some of the things that I've known or seen all along. Like, seen a lot to be 28. Believe it or not, I've been through a lot. I've seen a lot to be 28, but I still find myself, of course, learning new things. That's going to happen. You never want to stop learning, but I just find myself like literally in awe. Like, it's like finding out about things you were comfortable with what you knew about them. And then you find out something else rather complex, but yet so simple about the thing that you have always been comfortable with knowing. And it just sends you into a bottomless pit of just open thought and scenarios. I always see myself running through these scenarios over and over, good and bad. And it could probably be considered a good and bad habit. Too much of it, of course, will be the bad habit. But I have no idea why they pop in my head, where they come from. But, I'm starting to realize that I'm a very emotional person. I react so strongly with unspoken emotion. And what I mean by that is, I'll be sitting here listening to a song, or maybe watching something informational, or, just something comes across as fascinating to me. And I just immediately get goosebumps, or I just feel this shock wave just go through my body. And I'm just like, it feels like I have power. It feels like I have, I don't know if any listening are familiar with, anime or anything like that, or any cartoons, but I feel like I have power flowing through me, literally. And it's crazy. It's a crazy feeling, because when I feel powerful, at the same time I feel vulnerable. Like it's a weird feeling. Like I feel the shockwave going through me, but I have no control over the shockwave. It is literally, it has a brain of its own. That's what it feels like. And it just flows through my body wherever it, like, seemingly wants to go, or wherever it's directed to go. It is neither up to me, and who knows if it's up to itself. But it's just so crazy how we're able to notice when we notice something. Like, if you ever think about that, like when you notice something, it was maybe something was racking in your brain one day, and maybe you just had some kind of crazy thought, and you were just like, that's silly, and you just let it go. And then one day it literally came across your eyes. You saw it. And a lot of times it takes people to see things for them to actually just, for them to just 100% like believe it. Some literally believe things off 100%. It's like, that's fine. There's no judgment here. My point that I'm getting at is we're all powerful, and yet we look for power. Like, we're all powerful. We're all teachers. We're all students. And yet we look outside of ourselves for each one of these things, me included. And, some people might say, well, why now? Like, why did you start recording your thoughts and what you feel like you need to say now? And honestly, I could answer that by saying this is just the way it happened. I've recorded myself plenty of times earlier in the past, but it was short. I was in and out with it. I wasn't hot, I wasn't cold, I was lukewarm with it, heavy. And certain things changed in my life. I had to get a different perspective, and as soon as I got a different perspective, the world changed to the perspective that I changed to. There wasn't like, the world changed and then I made some changes. I made some quick decisions, and the world adapted to what I saw the world as. And it's crazy. The best thing I can describe is the world is like, what is that stuff that we used to play with as a kid? Putty. And you could just create stuff, Or like, for people who don't understand what putty is, maybe a sandcastle. I've never into sandcastles, but like, if that was your thing, imagine just being able to create anything you want out of that sand. It was just like, what? So I think what we all focus on sometimes is not even necessarily what we don't have, but what we're not. We love our actors, we love our athletes and stuff, but a lot of times we catch ourselves getting envious because we think, maybe this person have had it a little easier than me, or maybe he got a little bit more lucky than me. And hey, that might be true. But guess what? What if that person had it 10 times harder than you? Or what if that person had to grind through the mud just to get a little whiff of where they are now? Like, they never knew that they would get there. Some did, maybe some believed, maybe some didn't. But overall, they all had to deep inside believe to get there. So it really comes down to you. I catch myself asking people what I should do between these two options, and I've been doing this for years. But like I'm 28 now, and like this year I've just noticed that I've been catching myself. I've been like, oh, I have 2 or 3 decisions, and I'll be like, oh no, okay, I'm excited that I got decisions. Yes. My blessings came through, and then I'll be like, wait, which one? That should never really be a question that you even think about asking. And I mean, when you speak, you're talking to someone. So in my particular case, I would be talking to God. Like, at all times, if I'm speaking to myself, I'm speaking to Him most of the time. So even when you're by yourself, you kind of have to watch what you say, But let me tell you, I know from experience, speaking things into existence, it is so real. People don't get it. It's like buying a candy bar from the store. You want a Twix from the store. What do? You get in your car, or you take the bus or a little Uber. You go to the store. You walk in. It's $1.99. You know it's gonna be $2.14, $2.13 after tax. You make sure you have that amount. When you grab it, you go to the register and you pay for it. Boom. It's just like that. When you want something, you get it. You go get it. You make the decision that you want it, you go get it. Like, and even me, like I was the king of excuses and the king of procrastinate. I was the king of procrastination, let me tell you. And every now and then I catch myself still doing the same thing. I've gotten a lot better because I'm starting to get little habits now. I don't know if it comes with the age or if it just comes with realizing that you realize like that you can be different. You don't have to be the same. You can be whatever you want to be. You know, you can essentially do whatever you want to do. Once you say you want to do something, there's a certain way you do it for something to happen. You know, if you want to get better if you want to be one of the best cooks in the world, you probably should cook a lot. You know, make a lot of mistakes, and then do the same thing over and over. So when you do the same thing over and over, the same mistake that you were making from the beginning comes less and less until eventually it doesn't come at all. And even though we're not perfect beings and we could probably not be perfect, we probably have or can get very near perfect tendencies to the point where we're not thinking about doing, we're just doing. And a lot of times, you know, even when you were growing up, you think before you speak, think before you act, but in turn, you want to get to a point where you think and act simultaneously, to where you're thinking and you're acting are one. Like if you thought before you acted and you acted before you thought, you would come up with the same answer pretty much, essentially. That's where that's where you want to go. To the point where you can trust yourself enough to where the thought is less of an action that needed. You know, we're a lot more autonomous than people realize. People, you know, we talk about robots and things like that. We're essentially, you know, smarter than the robot in itself if we, you know, in turn, you know, create robots. But, you know, I think people look at it differently because a robot does what you tell it to do from the beginning, but essentially it gets smarter and it starts to realize and recognize certain patterns that you have, whether it be something you watch, you know, you get little things from search engines and things like that. They just start suggesting things to you after a while because it becomes a pattern. Trying to make it as easy for you as possible to do as much, like as less searching and clicking as possible. Oh, you know, you went to Wendy's last Tuesday. You know, they got a 2 for $4 now, 2 for $5. You know, you went to Taco Bell a month ago and you haven't been since. So, you know, they got this special. Maybe you should try it. You know, I heard you talking about you were searching for a dentist. You children's dentistry the other day. You know, this one just doing a special. And like, if you do that with yourself, you know, you find yourself, you catch yourself always thinking about working out or thinking about losing weight. So take that and be like, okay, I like it. You know, I like what I see. So don't use, because it's going to be two types of energy that come at you. A positive one and a negative one. Oh, he or she looks good. Great. Oh, they're amazing. I love them. Oh, they look so good. I'd never be like that. They think they're better than me. It sucks. Oh, two different types of energy. One good, one bad. You still get to choose which one you want to entertain, which one you want to accept and give you energy to move forward or backwards. Okay, let's do this. So, you know, I found myself loving how I feel when I work out, and, you know, certain benefits of it, of course, but never to the point where I would work out consistently over a long period of time due to the fact of me not seeing results in a timely frame that was comfortable for me. And I had to realize, I don't know if it came with age or not, but who did I think I was to be able to control time? Time doesn't even control time. It happens when it's gonna happen, and that's it. Like, it's better to go with something than against it. Can you imagine like running or pushing against water? Like, in anything I've ever done in life, I can tell you one experience I had that's the perfect example. I used to have to ride my bike to work 5 to 6 miles a day there. 5 to 6 miles there, 5 to 6 miles back. So essentially 11 to 13 miles, 12 to 13 miles a day. I was a server. Now, some days it really didn't bother me, you know, especially after a while you do it, you kind of get used to it, but essentially you never get used to it. And when I say that, I mean, it's something if it's something you really despise, you essentially get used to tolerating it, but essentially you never get used to doing it because you hate it. But so one day, it was a beautiful day. It wasn't raining or anything, and you would think that would be one of the hardest days when it like rains or storms. But essentially, I got on my bike one day and I was headed to work like I normally do, and when I tell you the wind was blowing like 30 miles in the opposite direction, and I mean my trip to work was essentially a straight shot and like a straight shot down, and then a quick right, and then a straight shot. So 2.5 miles maybe down, and then another 2.5, 3 miles down. Man, I don't know if the wind was shifting directions or what, but that was going against the wind. Oh my goodness. Something so beautiful, something that feels so good and cools you during like a hot day, suddenly becomes your enemy because you're trying to get to a place where you do certain actions and they pay you for it so you can survive in this existence. And yet today, something completely out of control, something way more powerful than you, something that moves on its own when it wants to, at it will, just, you know, you've never even thought for a second that you controlled it. And it's like just today, in the direction that you're going, it goes the opposite. And you know, you feel attacked. You feel like, oh, this is gonna be this kind of day. Oh, this is messed up, and you know, da 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 da. Why me? Why do I have to be riding a bike? You know, and it's just, I'm telling you, there's always a door open in the office of your mind, and there's always another patient. So as soon as you, the psychiatrist of yourself, finishes talking to one of your patients, which might be one of the little small mini issues or small little mini what's the word I'm looking for? Personalities, you know, you separate the two, you talk to yourself, you do this, you do that, and they just come, you know, it's another one. Okay, you figured out that problem, you're not worried about that problem, but what about this? Oh, okay, well, you remember when you was 3 and this happened, when you was 5 and this happened? Your brain, the psychiatry, you like, it's a constant flow. So you're constantly asking yourself questions, answering your own questions, doubting your own answers, and then it's a reverse cycle. And no one's perfect. The smartest person, or whoever you think the smartest person in the world is, goes through the same thing, just at their own frequency. Okay? You know, they still have little thought things they overthink, problems that they, you know, deal with. It might not be with math like yours is. It might be with, you know what I'm saying, depression. Like, you just don't know. Someone that looks good at one thing doesn't mean they're good and they're okay with everything. The thing about it is, we're all flowing through this autonomous state of energy. And at the end of the day, energy you put out is the energy you get back, regardless of your circumstances. Because who do you think you are that think you can control that? Like, there hasn't been a being to, like, other than, of course, me, Heavenly Father, God, to control time in itself. Like, time is infinite. How do you plan on controlling something that doesn't have a limit of itself? That's like trying to grasp. That's like trying to put air in a vacuum, in a bag that's all forever expanding. It will forever expand. Air, yes, you can trap air in like a balloon or something like that. But think about this for a second. If you had a fan with some type of force that would push air or make air expand. So let's say you had let's say you had an ever expanding balloon, and you just constantly, you know, you put the fan towards the balloon and just constantly fill the balloon, Well, I mean, if it's an ever expanding balloon, it'll never pop, right? But nothing like that has ever been made, because anything that was always ever expanding has always existed. It didn't have to be made. It was there. So, I catch myself, going through the motions sometimes of, even when I first started making videos. You really think this is the first time I've really thought about making videos? Of course not, man. I've thought about making videos probably the last 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. I'm just starting to realize that thinking is good. You should think about things, but when you want something to happen, when you want to do something, when you yourself personally want something to happen, you want to become something or do something, or not even become something, but be a better version of yourself, or a more improved version of yourself, or just a person, be you with an extra ability. You just have to just act. Even I'm starting to realize that I hate exercising, but when I know I want to exercise, I don't tell myself we're going to go exercise at this time or we're going to do this. No, I don't do that anymore. When I want to exercise, I just go do it. So I don't think about exercising before I exercise when I think about exercising. And sometimes it's a thought right when I wake up in the morning. Sometimes it's a thought later at night. Me personally, I don't like working out at night. So if I have a thought at night, I'll just be like, I'll try to go in the morning, and I'll let that thought go. If I really want to go, I'll wake up in the morning and go. At the end of the day, you're not required or entitled to do or get or become anything. You have to determine what you believe in, what you see, what you perceive. It's you. It is you. Even the friends you have, you chose them. You chose to be their friend. You chose to accept their friendship. You chose to love and care for them like a friend, just like you expect them to do for you. Or whatever type of relationship that y'all have, you accepted that type of relationship, and that's fine. That's nothing is wrong with that. And the whole term wrong is just it's not a good term, I feel, because I don't even think you could be really wrong in a sense, because you're constantly learning, constantly evolving, which is always a good thing. I believe it or not, growing up, people used to tell me I talk a lot, but I actually don't. Like I did not like talking. I definitely don't feel comfortable talking to myself. But it gets to a point where you realize something that's bigger than you ain't up to you. And that should be okay. That should be okay. You don't want it. Do you really want to have the responsibility of, imagine having the responsibility of the universe? No, you don't want that. Pass that up to someone much higher than you. All that worry of this and that. Keep in mind, I've been homeless 6 times. So, been on the street. I've been in the bottom with the roaches and the rats. And, essentially I've gotten on my knees, and I've also turned away. So, this thing that we call life, these levels, these steps, these ages that we go through, it's just a constant evolving spectrum. And what you essentially not necessarily control, but have control over, what you eat, what you drink, how much time you spend doing this, how much time you spend doing that. Like, you can make it very simple to where there's no way like you cannot understand it. You have control over a very spectrum of things that spread out to multiple things, but essentially what goes in your body, what goes in your body, what you do with your body, and I'll use this phrase, essentially how much time is spent doing either of those things. Those might be the top 3 things you have control over. What goes in your body, what you do with your body, and how much time is spent with both of those. And you have you can say what you want to say essentially, but I didn't use that because the world is different, and you could say technically what you want to say, but certain cultures and certain people have been raised to where you only say what's allowed. So freedom of speech in a sense is true, not just in the U.S., but like in our being. You know, we have a mouth, we have a tongue, and we know letters that equal up to words. And you speak it, and people hear what you say. Essentially, you hear what you say yourself. So I'm not sure, you know, if the person hears what you say with their ears first before you do. But you know what you're about to say should essentially already be, you know, locked in. If you're at that point of like fluency, you know, of course people have speech issues. Of course, I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, like, as the core meaning of it, like, people could communicate in so many different ways. Like me personally, I feel like I'm real gifted in reading vibes. You know, I know someone's vibe before they speak, after they speak, if it changes, if it's a good vibe or an uncomfortable vibe. Like, you know, some things that are gifts can sometimes be considered as curses if you try to go against it. It might not be something you want to do, it might not be something you like, but essentially you have the gift of it. So, you know, even me, I was like shy, really shy when I was younger, very, very shy introvert. And now I find myself being one of the most extrovert persons I know as I'm older, you know, more comfortable with strangers, being able to make friends off the rip. Man, it was never like that when I was growing up. I didn't want to talk to you. I didn't want to be near nobody, you know. But, you know, essentially, it just comes down to what you allow in, what you allow to stay in, and what you push out. That's essentially all it is. You have a thought, if you have an opinion, if you believe something said or something you read, something you heard, when you believe it, someone shouldn't be able to come up to you and tell you something different, and you just, start doubting what you just believe. If you already believe it, then you should definitely understand that you can hear what someone has to say and understand their opinion, but it not sway your own opinion because you've already made up your mind. Now, granted, if there was any doubts in your mind about something you believe, then yeah, you have like, it's kind of like having an open window for a burglar to enter. But if you have everything locked up and you got this new security system that just detects any type of movement, and it has cameras on the outside and the inside, which of course, if you are 100% believed in something, that's what it would look like. Like my faith in God, for example. You know, I've been through good and bad. I've had conversations with God, everything. And at the end of the day, I know in my being that without him, I would be in a state of complete suffering. And I know that 100%. You can't sway my decision. You can't change my mind. You can't tell me at all that it would be better without it. It's just not the move. It doesn't exist in my mind. There's no universe. There's no planet. There's nothing. There's no time or anything without God in my life. And that's just me personally. So if you have a certain type of faith to that end with whatever you got, then hey, congrats, my brother, my sister. I'm so excited and happy for you. It's the best feeling in the world to know that you know, and nothing can change that. Like it's like knowing you're a man or a woman. It's like knowing you like milk or cheese. It's like knowing you've tasted, you felt it, you know, you've connected with it emotionally. You just know. And there's a lot of things you think you know and you don't know, but think about that. And I said it twice. You think you know. And I've read books on thought and I've read books on thought and thinking and how important it is to understand that. But You know, even me, I had to realize that acting is the ultimate. It's the ultimate. You know, it's the ultimate thing. I've looked for people. I've looked for answers. I've asked questions. You know, but essentially, some of the questions that I asked, knowing the answer wouldn't change anything in my life. I would just know. So I quit asking questions that wouldn't affect me and started asking questions that would. And like, what I've noticed is I essentially already have the answer. I just didn't ask. Not necessarily the right question. I expected the answer right away, and the answer came when the answer came. You know, that goes back to trying to have control over something you don't. You ask a question, you just expect the answer. No, you was in control of asking the question. You asked it. Now wait for the answer. Patience. And I'm learning this every single day. It's just something that comes with being, I guess, open to learning and accepting certain perspective that's not yours. Open is the key word, I think. I'm trying to be as universal as possible. But thank you guys for listening to me today. I appreciate it. And there will be more in the future. Until next time, stay humble. I love you all. See you later. Peace.